Welcome in to Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Fridays wherever you may be. No Lock It In on television today, so as soon as I finish this show, I am done rolling into the weekend. I'm a little bit early here today, but that's because I want to take the boys to the pool and kick back and chill for the rest of the day. I've already knocked out a 3-hour radio show. I've already written for a couple hours. Already did my local radio interviews. Now I knock this out. Boom. The day is over for me. We got a lot to get to. Le'Veon Bell robbed. His description of the 911 call in who robbed him will definitely entertain you. The NBA draft happened yesterday. We react to it. Last night it did. Are the Tampa Bay Rays potentially moving part of the season to Montreal? That was the news that came out yesterday afternoon. How about an LSU fan stealing $500,000 from a charity and then giving $180,000 to an offensive lineman? People don't seem to care. Are we officially over the pay-to-play debate in the world of college athletics? And the U.S. women get past Sweden yesterday, off and running with all of those stories and more. But we begin, let me tell you, go download the Wins and Losses podcast. A lot of you have been doing it, been getting a very good reaction across the board. Mike Leach is the guest this week. We're going to have another great guest next week. Every week, one long-form conversation with me. You can only hear it on the podcast. Lots for you to catch up on, lots for you to listen on if you're going on a long drive, if you're taking a beach trip and you need to be able to hear something while you're hanging out. Go sign up for the podcast. I guarantee that you will be entertained by it. Go hop in now. Wins and Losses. Just search out my name on the iTunes store. And you can't miss it. You'll be able to find it easily. All right. This story is amazing. This is a 911 call. All right. Le'Veon Bell, who is now the Jets running back, set out an entire season as the Pittsburgh Steelers running back because he didn't want to sign his franchise tag. This is wild. All right. This is actual transcript of his 911 call when he had a lot of jewelry stolen. Okay, I'm reading. This is Le'Veon Bell. This is a transcript of his 911 call. This is 100% real, not satire. Everything here is real. I am reading the quotes. Pretend that I am Le'Veon Bell. Well, I had 2 girls in my house, and I got up and I did my normal routine to go to work out. So I left the workout for a couple of hours. When I came back, they took my money. They took my watch, my jewelry, a couple more of my things of value out of my house. I don't know where they're at. I tried to call them before I called you guys. I tried to call them and they're not answering me and they're ignoring me. He was then asked, Le'Veon Bell was, what is the value of the jewelry that is missing? And he responded, like $1 million. All right, Le'Veon Bell, 911 call. He was then asked to describe the women who allegedly stole from him. His answer, they're both mixed. The darker-skinned woman, he said, was 23 years old. He said the lighter-skinned woman was 21. So he was then asked, what were they wearing? And Le'Veon Bell responds, when I left, she was in the bed not wearing clothes, so I didn't see her when she left. Bell described the other woman, I'm reading from NewJersey.com, as being lighter-skinned and 21 years old. The operator asked Bell what that woman was last seen wearing. He said, the same way, she was in the bed too. They didn't have clothes on. Le'Veon Bell with one of the all-time great 911 calls in the history of American life. The man calls 911 to report that $1 million of his jewelry has been stolen, a.k.a. waving his arms wildly, I am rich. I got so much money that I just bought $1 million in jewelry. As if that were not substantial enough. $1 million in jewelry. He's asked who stole the jewelry. He says 2 good-looking young women, basically, a 21-year-old and a 23-year-old. Asked to describe what they were wearing when he last saw them, he describes both of them as being naked in his bed. That is living, boys and girls, as Matthew McConaughey would say back in Dazed and Confused, L-I-V-I-N, baby. Now, a lot of people are going to judge Le'Veon Bell here. Here is what I would say, all right? First of all, it's expensive if your girls steal $1 million from you. You know what's more expensive? A divorce without a prenuptial agreement. So lots of people out here are going to be like, oh, Le'Veon Bell's such an idiot. What's he thinking? Actually, if you had to choose between getting married to an honest woman who decides to divorce you or sleeping with two women who decide to steal $1 million of your jewelry, you're better off to be sleeping with the women who steal your jewelry. Because at least they have to go to jail for what they take. And you don't risk anything else other than what they steal. As Kanye said so memorably, get a prenup, basically. A prenup is something that you need to have. As Kanye West so eloquently rapped back in the day on his best album he's ever released. I think this is hysterical because, again, everybody's going to rip Le'Veon, right? Everybody's going to rip him for having $1 million in jewelry and getting it stolen. But if it's in his house, it might be under his homeowner's insurance policy. And if they catch the girls, they have to go to jail. He actually might not have lost that much at all. I do, however, appreciate this man's dedication. How many men do you know with two naked women in their bed would get up and go to the gym and work out while they were sitting out for a year? Lots of people out there, including probably your boy. I got two naked women in bed with me. I'm not going to have the drive and the dedication to get up and go to the gym. You might also be asking, you got two women in bed with you, why do you even need to go to the gym? You're already getting taken care of. You're already getting a great workout. It's every man's dream. I don't think Le'Veon Bell made a smart decision to sit out for a year and not make any money playing football. But I can't criticize the man for having $1 million in jewelry and also, even though he got it stolen, having the good sense and decency to trust the women. 911 call. It's rare that you get a humble brag on a 911 call, but the man is rich enough to have bought $1 million in jewelry, and he's also capable of letting everybody know that he's got a couple of good-looking girls laying naked in his bed when he left them to go to the gym. That's the kind of dedication I need to see. I think Steelers might have given him a long-term deal if they'd known he'd get out of bed when he had two naked women there with him. That is the Le'Veon Bell story. It is 100% true. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the Show. It's time to move on to the next story. The NBA draft reaction. First off, on my NBA draft reaction. Number one complaint about NBA coverage. We have got to stop with the stupidity of wearing hats from teams that have already traded you. Now, I got a couple of degrees. I got a law degree. I got an MFA. I got a bachelor's. I spent a lot of time in school. It's hard for me to keep up with who's drafting who on the NBA. It started with the 4th overall pick. The Lakers won it in the draft lottery. Then they traded it to the Pelicans. Then the Pelicans traded it away to the Atlanta Hawks. So we got a pick twice removed. The team that was drafting DeAndre Hunter was the Atlanta Hawks, yet we required him to walk up onto the stage wearing a Laker team hat when the Lakers had already given the pick first to the Pelicans, and the Pelicans had already given the pick away too. What is the harm in giving this man a hat of the Atlanta Hawks instead of making him get all of his photos taken in the Lakers gear? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. If the pick has been traded, then adjust it live on the air. Having said that, I like Ja Morant long-term more than I like Zion. I loved Zion's interview. I thought that Zion is a particularly evanescent, exciting, exhilarating, effervescent player. I root for him. I think he feels authentic. The biggest addition to the NBA since LeBron James. But I question this. Is he going to develop a handle? And does he have the ability to make an outside shot? Because if you can't do either of those things, then you're not going to be very good long-term in the NBA. I know that Ja Morant already has both of those things, which is why right now, if I had to buy stock for the next decade, I like Ja Morant more than I like Zion Williamson. All right? Outside of that, the draft that I liked the best was the Boston Celtics. Because the Celtics now have max contract money. And I liked the way they drafted because I think they got 4 guys that are going to be a big help to them. They went and they drafted Romeo Langford, right? I think he was their number 14 overall pick or whatever he was. They got Grant Williams, 22. They got, at 32, they got Carson Edwards, a guy I absolutely love as an off-the-bench point guard. And then they got the point guard from LSU, Walters, right? Trayvon Waters. I get all these guys mixed up. All 4 of them I like. They drafted like a team that expects to be good, even though they're losing, even though they are absolutely losing Al Horford and Kyrie Irving. They can bring in a new max guy or potentially a couple more, but they drafted like a team that expects to contend for a championship. I like all 4 of those picks. I also want to congratulate, you guys know I'm a University of Tennessee fan. I enjoyed watching this University of Tennessee basketball team all year, even at the very end when they fouled a guy on a three-pointer and ended up taking 10 years off my life in the Sweet 16. But I love seeing Grant Williams get drafted, Admiral Schofield, and Jordan Bone. I found all 3 of these guys to be incredibly likable players all season long. And I love the chances that they're going to have in the NBA, particularly Jordan Bone. I think all these guys are going to make it in the league. They are all under-the-radar guys. But I think Jordan Bone, his athleticism and his ability to continue to grow as a point guard, I think he has the potential to really help out the Detroit Pistons in the years ahead. I think they got a steal at 57 overall. And if you haven't seen the video, I tweeted it out. I don't know if we can include it here in a clip that we'll eventually do. If we can grab that video, I'd like to include it right here of Jordan Bone thinking that he was not going to be drafted. His brother is sitting there on the microphone at his draft party when suddenly Jordan Bone's name goes up at 57 and he is bum rushed on the stage. If you have not seen that video, it is everything that is fantastic about sports and athletics and the pure joy of exhilarating accomplishment. I give him all the credit and congratulations to his family. I also want to give a shout out to Garrison Matthews, who is a fan of Outkick. Chance for him. He signed a 2-way deal with the Washington Wizards. Chance for him to end up the first NBA player from Lipscomb. He is a really good dude, and I am rooting for him to succeed in the NBA. I'm just excited to see how this all plays out in general. All right. This story. The Tampa Bay Rays are potentially going to play half the season in Tampa Bay and half of the season in Montreal. This is wild to me, okay? This story in general has to do with baseball expansion. Rob Manfred came out recently and said that he thought there were 4 cities in the United States that potentially could support Major League Baseball. And I'm naming them in no particular order. Nashville, which is clearly number 1. Charlotte, Las Vegas, and Portland, okay? Those are the 4 American cities. Also, he said Montreal potentially. I think what's happening here is the Rays want to get out of Tampa, and they're looking for a way to escape. And so Montreal, which used to have the Expos, is after them. I think there's a potential opportunity here. I think there is a potential opportunity here for the team to eventually move to Montreal. In the meantime, I saw somebody on Twitter say the name of this team should be the X-Rays, and it can just be an X-ray of a ray, where you see the bones inside of it to tie in the Montreal Expos with the Tampa Bay Rays. But clearly, as Abraham Lincoln memorably said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And when he said that, he was thinking about Major League Baseball teams being located in both Florida and Canada. He knew, old Abe, honest Abe, smart as he was, knew that there was no way a Major League Baseball team could exist in two different countries, particularly countries separated by that much distance. This is a non-starter, but I think it's evidence of the fact that Major League Baseball wants out of Tampa. Okay? To me, the storyline here is the fact that they would let this go public. But can you imagine being a player? You would start the season in April in Florida, and then if you have a family, you'd have to relocate to a different country. I mean, that's wild. You would have a totally different lifestyle in Montreal as opposed to living in Tampa. This doesn't make any sense at all. So if I were at Major League Baseball, they are expanding and they are adding 2 franchises. Let's say I would rather not have a team in Montreal if I were Major League Baseball. I would rather have 3 more teams in the continental United States. You could move the Rays to either Nashville, Charlotte, Las Vegas, or Portland, and then 2 of the other cities I think would deserve teams. I think Nashville will get a Major League Baseball team at some point in the next 10 years. I think the city where I live could support one. I kind of like the idea, honestly, of the Rays coming here. I like the idea of the Tampa Bay Rays coming to Nashville and of the South getting an American League team. All right, let me explain my rationale for why an American League team in the South I think would make some sense. All right, you got the Cubs, you got the Cardinals, you got the Atlanta Braves, right? All 3 of those teams, which are somewhere in the central part of the country, and Cincinnati Reds, right? All 4 of those teams are all National League teams. I'm talking about equidistant from Nashville. Cincinnati Reds, St. Louis Cardinals, Atlanta Braves, and Chicago Cubs. All of those teams have a lot of fan base in the Nashville area. I know because I live here. What would do incredibly well? Boom, you plop in a American League team right in Nashville, okay? You got all these teams from the AL East that want to come down here. People from Boston, people from New York. You build a Major League Baseball stadium right downtown near the Titan Stadium, and I think you would bring in a ton of tourists. I got a bar downtown, 411 Broadway, that I'm part owner of. Right now in downtown Nashville, there are tons of people walking up and down those streets, going to all those honky-tonks with a ton of time to spend and with, more importantly, a ton of money to spend. You could walk across the pedestrian bridge over into East Nashville, 41 games or 81 games a season. I think you could fill up 10,000 seats per game, certainly on weekend games, entirely with people who aren't even from Nashville. I think this thing would draw well. It doesn't compete that much with existing sports, right? There's no real competition to speak of, by and large, with the NFL. There's not that much competition to speak of with the NHL. It's a different season entirely. I love it. I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it should happen. So we'll see what ends up occurring. But I don't think you can split the distance between the Rays and the Expos. If the Rays aren't working, move that team, period. All right. LSU fan is paying players. What's remarkable to me about this is if I had popped this story out on social media 5 years ago, it would have been a major social media story. Everybody would have come flying in. An LSU fan has come out and said, it has been convicted, has pled guilty to stealing $500,000 from a charity and giving $180,000 to an LSU offensive lineman's family. In conjunction with everything that was going on with Will Wade, it now seems like LSU is just the epicenter of paying whatever it takes to get good players in to play for the Bayou Bengals. Now, for anybody who knows LSU, or more importantly, the state of Louisiana, a.k.a. Huey Long's domicile, the fact that there is buying and selling of players going on in Louisiana is the most predictable thing you've ever seen, because everything gets bought and sold in Louisiana. It is one of the most corrupt places ever. Now, some dude over here is saying, don't you always say wait on the facts? He pled guilty and is going to jail. Okay? That is a fact. It is not an allegation. This individual pled guilty and is going to prison for embezzling funds and providing them to a player, among other things. He's not going to jail for stealing the money and giving it to a player. He's going to jail for stealing, all right? Wait for the facts, guy. This is 100% a fact. This man, headline, directed $180,000 of stolen money to the father of a former LSU player's family. That is a story. If you're curious, here's the opening paragraph. John Paul Funes, who pled guilty today, that was yesterday, to stealing more than $550,000, sent approximately $180,000 of that money to the father of an LSU offensive guard. So, this is a fact, okay? He stole $550,000. He is going to prison. He has pled guilty to all of this. I don't know what else to say other than this is a fact. He is potentially facing 20 years in prison. Now, if you think this random LSU fan just decided to plead guilty to stealing $550,000 in court and to face 20 years in prison to try to catch LSU in wrongdoing, then my God, that's the craziest dude in the history of Cajun country. All right? This is a mess. Now, they also said the actual amount he stole was over $800,000, but they're letting him plead guilty to just over $50,000. He could do as little as 3 years behind bars. Either way, 3 years in prison is a long time. My point on this story, aside from the fact that LSU is paying players like crazy, it appears, is people don't seem to care. Several years ago, when there was a scandal about paying players, it would blow up and it would be everywhere. Nowadays, I think college football and basketball fans assume that everybody is paying players and they don't really care. If this is going on, I think it should be the number one response every time people say, well, we got to pay the players. If you're any good at all, you're already getting paid. So there is absolutely nothing when it comes to the argument of we should pay the players. The answer is we're already paying the players. And I think that everybody has accepted it. Nobody cares. Certainly in college basketball, that seems to be the case. And the NCAA seems utterly impotent to do anything about it, which means this has just become rampant and nobody cares at all. And the only time it really becomes a story is when we get a story such as these, which is where people get popped. Now, I do think the IRS one day could decide to get involved here, because if you're taking $180,000 in cash and you're not paying taxes on it, at minimum, that is tax evasion. And that's why I'm kind of surprised the college basketball universe, they didn't decide to prosecute tax evasion as opposed to this strained fraudulence claim that they tried to make in all these cases. Finally, Women's World Cup gets the win over Sweden. Audience is exploding. Fox just tweeted out that the audience is up 36% over 4 years ago. If the U.S. women keep winning, it is going to be a massive audience. But they are playing Spain on Monday, and then they would get, theoretically, France in the quarterfinals. France and the U.S. are the two top teams potentially competing for the championship. All right, I love all of you. I'm taking my kids to go hang out at the pool. It's Friday afternoon, the longest day of the year, the first day of summer. I hope all of you have a fantastic day. Go read the mailbag today. It's really good. Go listen to the podcasts that are up. Go listen to all sorts of audio that's out there. Go read my writing, and you can share all these clips later in the day. Lock It In is off today. We're off all next week because we're bumped by the Women's World Cup. And then the final week of year one, we'll do from Los Angeles the first week of July. And then we get a little bit of a month off from TV, and then we'll be back in August because they picked up year two of the television show. Thanks for everybody who has watched it. We've had a lot of fun with it. Final week of Lock It In, not next week, but the week after. Love all of you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. Kisses to all of you. Congrats to all of the NBA draft picks. That was awesome. And everybody who has signed a contract to play in the NBA. A lot of fun to watch people rise to that level of success. And congratulations to Le'Veon Bell. Hard-working dude. Even when there's 2 naked girls in bed with him, he gets up and goes to the gym. I'll see you guys. Kisses. Bye. Love you. Thank you, Facebook.